I know there's been a steady decline in desktop computers with keyboard and mice, and that there's been a big surge of mobile devices with a bunch of touchscreens. However, there's still a lot of people in the world that are using desktop computers without any touchscreen whatsoever, and they prefer using keyboards and mice over touching the screen to navigate the web browser. However, I've noticed there's been a trend around lately that's made desktop computers with keyboards and mice so unintuitive in terms of their user interface. It's been so bad, and I don't even get how this went through into final design or something, but there's a lot going wrong in the big giants of websites like YouTube and Twitter and all this stuff. So I guess okay, I guess let me compare this. So over here, this is the this is the UI that we've known for about a good 3 years now. This is the new YouTube layout, and this is the old YouTube layout. I used an extension to restore the old YouTube layout. I wanted to make this video now because they're actually getting rid of this very soon. So I want to make this video now before they completely get rid of this so I can make my point. So this is the new layout, and this is the old layout. And this really reminds me of a Windows 8 scenario. When the operating system came out, it came out with this full screen start menu with a bunch of live tiles on the screen. And you know what? This made a lot of sense for touch users because the live tiles were big enough for your fingers. However, if you were on a desktop computer upgrading for Windows 7, you'd see that the live tiles are just too big. It doesn't make sense to click live tiles with a keyboard and a mouse. It just naturally doesn't make sense. The live tiles are too big. Alright, I just installed Windows 8.1 on my new computer. Let's see how good it is. Whoa! And going from Windows 7 with a start menu with the size of each icon being just right for the keyboard and mouse, going to this new UI didn't make that much sense. And that really just translates to websites we see today. For example, the new YouTube layout. Look at how big the thumbnails are, okay? The homepage is where I see this the most. The thumbnails are so big on this homepage. It makes zero sense whatsoever when you go from the old layout. If you go to the old layout, you can see that the thumbnails are smaller, but it makes sense because the keyboard and mouse is precise enough to reach these menus, and you can click each individual video with ease. And you don't have to do that much scrolling. Over here, you have to do so much scrolling. If we go to, let's count the amount of videos. If we go to recommended here, even three of these aren't filled up. So let's say 6, 12, 18, 24. There's supposed to be 24 videos on one screen. Let's take a look at the old layout. 4, 8, and 10, because this is half of a thumbnail. So 10 videos on the home screen. So if you're going from this to this, you're getting a downgrade. And even then, you're doing so much scrolling on this new layout, it makes no sense whatsoever. And the thumbnails are just so big where, again, it makes sense for touchscreen users. That's completely fine. However, if you're on a desktop computer, you end up moving your mouse a lot more, you end up scrolling a lot more because the thumbnails are so big. It makes no sense at all. Now you might argue, well, because of the amount of videos on the screen, the user might be overwhelmed because there's a lot of videos on the screen. Okay, fine. But YouTube actually organizes the videos so you'll know which videos are in which section. Look, there's a recommended section, there's a trending section, there's some weird topic here. I know you might not find this interesting, but at least it's organized. Comedy, popular YouTube channel, some featured section, at least it's organized in sections. Let's go over here, alright? So you see an advertisement, great start, and recommended, alright, so we see recommended trending, just like before. Then we scroll down. There's a weird unnamed section here. Then we see a named section. Then where did the organization go? It's gone. You keep scrolling, there's no organization anymore. It's gone. There's no organization. And that's exactly the problem. There's no organization whatsoever with this new layout. And this, maybe, you know what, even for touchscreen users, this makes no sense. Even for touchscreen users, this makes no sense. But yeah, those are the thumbnails. Let's take a look at this sidebar right here. So over here, again, keyboard and mouse users, easy to reach, no big deal. You can see if you were logged in, you could see a bunch of your subscriptions in a list. Makes sense, all right? Over here with the logged out account, look at this. You have to scroll. Imagine your subscriptions list. Imagine, I don't know have that many subscriptions, but if you had a lot of subscribers, you'd have this scroll wheel constantly here. Or, okay, well, this is Windows. This is like a web browser thing, okay? But, like, you'd have to scroll so much just to get to your content. Over here, at least it's taking advantage of the desktop space. I'm going to sell out my channel now. Let's go to the search menu, all right? Let's go to a search bar. Okay. All right, so this part of the... Okay, this does it a little bit better. As you can see, there's a little bit of space, but I mean, this is still a lot better than the home screen. All right, let's go to a channel. Yeah, I mean, yes, it's better. So the home screen is definitely the worst when it comes to utilizing desktop users. But I mean, look at this. All right. At least it looks similar. At least it looks similar. I like how they're actually putting a background. This is what I call taking advantage of desktop space, when they actually take up the whole wallpaper of the screen. Over here on the old layout, I guess this is one disadvantage. It doesn't really take up you can see there's a little bit of gray space over here. So at least they're taking advantage. But as I said before, look at this. We see 4 thumbnails here. Over here there's 1, and it's in this list. And I don't know if I don't think I set it. Yes, I did set it up to. So there's 2 columns in the old layout. Over here there's only 1 column. Why? You could see more of your content. Why this is a downgrade. You know, I strangely enough prefer this over the old one. Yeah, I prefer this layout over the old one. So, as you can see, a little bit more gray space. So, this one is still taking advantage of the new UI, or like desktop users. You can see there's still a lot of thumbnails. I guess this is one place where they excelled the most. At least they didn't change the video player too much. I actually like this bigger video player. It makes sense. Theater mode. Yep, this is good. This is what This is what I'm talking about. This is what I want to see from a new layout, when they actually take advantage of space. Let's go to trending. I still see, look, there's 2 columns of thumbnails, and this makes a lot of sense for a keyboard and mouse user. So I'd say this is mostly a downgrade. At least there's sections. At least there's organization, unlike the home screen. But again, I mean, look at this. You have a lot more thumbnails. Even though you could argue this is slightly more disorganized, at least it's in a trending section, so you don't really need organization here. Recently trending. Another point I should get to is the UI, like the way I guess this is a preference, alright? I don't really like this approach where they try and make everything look mobile. I guess this makes it a little bit more consistent. However, for desktop users, it might look ugly in most cases. You can tell that, I mean, everything looks like it's one color, and it doesn't really add much in the looks department. It really just looks like one color. You can see there's a little bit of a gray tint here and a little bit of white tint here. But at least here you can distinguish each color. There's white here. The gray is a little bit more noticeable. There's a little bit more red everywhere. Look, this is all black, where the text is blue over here. I mean, as you can see, this looks a bit, I mean, this is like very slight, but it looks more colorful. This looks like all like the same 2 colors. It's mostly black and white. And at the end of the day, this doesn't look good. It's just plain and boring. Over here, at least there's blue, red, a little bit more distinguished gray, white. There's more to notice. Over here, it's just all black and white with like two red elements and 1 blue element. Alright, so that was YouTube. Overall, pretty unintuitive, not gonna lie, pretty ugly design. It doesn't really have much going for it, in my opinion. There's a lot of places where space is just being wasted, and it just doesn't look good in general. However, let's move on to Twitter. Now, the new Twitter also took a huge redesign in the website, and I'm not gonna lie, it's not good. As much as I really want to adapt to this new UI, I have adapted to this UI. It's a lot easier than the YouTube transition, but honestly, I like the old layout better. If you take a look at the old layout, you can see, by the way, I'm using an image, so they actually removed the ability to go to the old UI, so I have to use an image. And I'm pretty upset that they don't have an option to do that, because you'll see. So, on the old layout, you can see a lot more space is being taken up. It's being taken advantage of. As you can see, there's a huge banner being taken up. Even if it might be too big, at least it's taking up some space. On the left, you have information about the Twitter user himself. On the right, you have information for like recommended stuff. And over here, you have tweets. Over here, you have following, followers, likes, all that stuff. But you can tell that space is actually being taken up here. And it's not just being wasted. If we go over here, yeah, it's honestly a downgrade for me. There's a lot of white space over here that's not being taken up, and it's just not good. On the bright side, at least things aren't like super big like YouTube, where thumbnails are not that big. At least it still somewhat makes sense for keyboard and mouse users, where elements aren't like huge to the point where it makes absolutely no sense. At least they scaled it down a little bit to keep it fine for keyboard and mouse users. So I'm happy about that. But the one thing I won't give mercy to the new Twitter layout is just in general looks. Now, if you take a look at the old layout, we can see that there's some depth, there's a gray background, there's sections that are defined properly, there's some color in the buttons, there's some variety. Over here, if we go to the new one, I mean, don't lie to me, this genuinely just looks plain and boring. A lot of elements in this webpage are literally just plain white. You might see some blue at time to time. However, for the most part, it's just plain white, and not gonna lie, this kind of looks boring. And even sections, like even if this is a section, you can tell that this isn't defined properly as a section. Over here, you can see that the sections are a little bit more defined. You can see literally little thin lines that define a section. Over here, sections are more defined. I thought they would have at least put a gray background, but they literally didn't. It's literally plain white and small elements of blue, and that's it. So that's my opinion on Twitter. It literally looks like the mobile UI just stretched on a desktop web browser. It's that bad. But there's one website I think that does this the best, and let's go to Reddit. Now, Reddit, in my opinion, is the best when it comes to utilizing screen space. Now, let's go to the homepage. Now, the homepage, honestly, again, is the weakest in terms of what I'm talking about, but at least it's much better than Twitter and YouTube. Over here, you can see that there's a lot more color everywhere. There's white parts everywhere. There's gray parts. There's a lot more color going on than just plain white. Look at this. I mean, come on. There's more defined sections, and the posts, okay, the posts might be too big, but at least within the posts, they're taking advantage of space. There's an image, there's a title, there's links. Yes, there's preview of the post. At least on the bright side, they're taking advantage of the space within the post. That's a good thing, but what if you don't like this? Well, at least Reddit gives you the option to go back to the old Reddit layout if you don't like it. And that's what I like about Reddit, is that they actually care about user design, and they don't just throw out a new design, call it a day, and then take out the old one saying that that one was worse. This is genuinely what I like about Reddit, is that they're actually giving people options. So what have we learned from this video today? Well, websites are designed too much around mobile users, elements are too big for mice and keyboard users, there's virtually no desktop user advantages, many websites go for plain and boring white backgrounds, and this is something I haven't talked about too much, but slower loading times. I've genuinely noticed that there were slower loading times with these new UIs, and that genuinely scares me considering there's less elements on the screen. But what's even more concerning is that website owners take what they have from their mobile app and just take it and paste it onto the desktop website. Like, what kind of sense does this make? This doesn't make the website and the mobile app consistent. This gives so many disadvantages to the desktop user. These elements make sense on a mobile device because the screen is less than 7 inches. You don't want to overwhelm the user with so much content on a screen that's less than 7 inches. But when you're on a screen that is larger than 10 inches, you want to take advantage of that screen space. But I guess that's just something that website owners just don't understand. And I guess that's the perfect way to end off this video. I hope that website developers in the future at least take some of my criticism into consideration, even if my view count is very low. I hope that they take some of this criticism into consideration, because honestly, YouTube's trash.